Hi folks, Dan here. Welcome back to Waygate Technologies. Today we're going to take a look at the RotoArray comPAct, and in this installment we're going to take a look at filling the tire of the RotoArray with couplant. The RotoArray elements are suspended just below the axle inside the wheel, and to get the ultrasound from the transducer elements to the outside of the tire, the inside of the tire is filled with liquid. And we don't use just anything for couplant in the RotoArray. We supply, and you can purchase propylene glycol separately. I would caution you, do not use anything other than propylene glycol inside the tire. Don't use water, don't use other antifreeze solutions or anything. Always use propylene glycol. It has both the benefits of being a relatively benign chemical to work with, and it is also a good acoustic impedance match to the tire material. So it was no accident that we chose propylene glycol or propandiol as the couplant solution to use here. Now, there are two different fill bottle devices that we provide to assist in filling the tire. The larger bottle, you can put about 1 liter of propylene glycol in here, use the pump to build air pressure inside, and then you have a simple valve to provide the flow of liquid out of the bottle. This larger bottle is very handy to have if you typically work in the same workshop environment where you have storage for it, you don't need to transport it, things like that. We also provide this smaller bottle. This has a hand pump that pumps the fluid directly. In the larger bottle, you build air pressure in top, and the air pressure is what pushes the fluid up and through. Here you're pumping the fluid directly. This has a nice storage location in the carry case. This is a more transportable version of the pump. The downside to this is I've found that unless you fill it right to the very top, and if you do that and then put the pump inside, sometimes you can get some overflow. So you don't want to go right to the very top. You want to stop down about this level. But I typically don't have quite enough fluid in this pump bottle to completely fill my tire on the first try. I usually end up getting it mostly full, take a second, add a little more fluid to the bottle, and finish up. So the easiest way that I have found to fill my RotoArray is I start by turning it on its side, and I let it rest on the handle, the frame, and the LEMO connector on the back here. Then if we look at this end, there's a blue fitting, and opposite the 180 degrees opposite the blue fitting is a recessed bolt head or screw head, and that is our vent. So I take my 2.5 millimeter hex driver, I reach into the vent screw, and I back that out a couple of turns. Okay, we don't need to remove it completely, but we just need to back it off a little bit to let it breathe. I've also found with experience that it helps if you work on a towel, because no matter how careful you are, there's going to be some overflow and spillage in this process. Okay? But I orient the tire so that my fill is down at down at 6 o'clock and my vent up at 12 o'clock. And I take my fill bottle, either one, both of the fill bottles have a similar fitting on the end. Okay. There's a quick coupling here. So you pull this part of the fitting back a little bit to expose some tubing. Okay. And you start the tubing into the quick fitting, and you press that in, and you'll feel the fitting give way a little bit, and then you'll feel it bottom out. Okay, it's a matter of feel, and it takes a little practice to get onto those couplings properly. To release and pull the tubing back out of the coupling, you need to get this part, this sleeve down here, pressing in on the blue coupler. If we look closely at this one, the way to remove the tubing is to press this collar into the fitting while simultaneously pulling on the tube. This collar is a release mechanism. It's the same thing here in the tire. I have found that loosening this gland nut so that this entire assembly can slide somewhat on the tubing allows me to push down on the release collar with the entire handle and then pull my tubing back out of the connector that way. Okay. So allowing the loosening this gland nut to the point that allows this to slide a little bit on the tubing, I have found very helpful. So again, I can plug the tubing into the fitting. Okay. Let's turn this a little bit so that you can see the tire. And I can begin pumping fluid in. And you can see as I pump, we can see the fluid filling the tire. Now, it takes quite a few squeezes of the handle to fill the entire tire. So we'll skip ahead here. I won't make you watch all of that. At some point, as I'm filling the tire, my couplant bottle is going to be getting close to the bottom. So this is when I simply unscrew the bottle, set that to the side, refill my bottle up to about the neck. And having refilled our pump bottle, now we can continue filling the tire. All right, we're getting close to the top. Now we want to make sure that when it has gotten completely full, we want to close our vent plug. And you'll notice there may still be just a little bubble left there. That's not a big deal, that's normal. Give the tire a couple of light taps to dislodge any bubbles that may have formed and float to the top. And now, if you feel the tire, it should be fairly soft. Once the vent cap is closed, you may want to give just a little bit of another pump until the tire just begins to feel a little more firm. Okay, you don't want to give it so much pressure that it wants to lift the tire away from the wheel and leak, but you want it to have just enough of a convex surface here so that when you push it down on a flat plate, it'll make contact the whole way across. Okay, so just a little bit of practice and feel to that part of the operation. Now, once everything is full and you have the pressure you want there, maybe take a towel and just wipe off any drips that you had. Then take this collar, push it down until get the connector where you have ready access to it. Push firmly against the coupling, against the release collar on the coupling, and pull the tubing back out. Okay. The coupling actually releases very smoothly and easily, but it's important that you're pushing down on the collar while pulling back on the tube, and that takes just a little bit of practice to get used to. But there we go. We have completely filled our RotoArray. Tire's all ready for action, and just wipe up the excess with dry towels and a little bit of plain old water, and you're good to go. We strongly recommend that when you're transporting your RotoArray, or if you are going to put it in storage for a period of time, especially if you're putting it back in the packing case, we recommend that you drain the propylene glycol out of the tire. The tire fits is basically just a tension fit onto the wheels, onto the hubs. They're not glued in place or anything like that to allow for replacement of the tire. So it's just the tension, the elasticity of the tire against the wheel, along with a lip and a groove that keeps it in place on here. So it is possible if the RotoArray experiences changes in air pressure. For instance, if you were to transport it on an airplane where you go up to altitude and come back down, the pressure drops, you can get leakage or seepage of the glycol out of the wheel. That can make quite a mess inside your packing case. So we recommend that you always drain the tire before long periods of storage or transport. If you're using it every day in the shop and it's relatively stable temperature and so on, you can fill it, you can leave it filled. Periodically, check for air bubbles, top it off. But if you are going to transport it, we recommend that you drain the tire. Now, the easiest way that I found to drain the tire is, first off, start by turning the instrument back over the way that you had it before. The same kind of orientation that you had when we filled it up. The vent, orient that so it's up. Get your glycol storage bottle. These have really good seals, so they work well during transport. You'll need a funnel. And then what I do is I remove the vent screw entirely. So before we just back that out to allow for air to bleed out, now I'm going to remove that entirely and be prepared. You may get some squeeze out. So you might want to work over a towel. Okay. And then what I do is I turn it upside down over the funnel. And now you can, if you like, remove the vent from the other end. However, being an old farmer, I use the milking the cow method. I just give a gentle squeeze on the tire. And you don't need much. You only need to indent the sides by, 10 or so millimeters, just enough to apply a little bit of pressure. When you release the pressure, you'll hear it suck air back. And you just repeat that. So just like milking a cow, you need to be gentle. You don't want to squeeze to the point where it deforms the tire enough to make it want to pop off the wheels. But you just continue to squeeze, release, squeeze, release. And eventually it will be mostly emptied. If there's, a part of a teaspoon, a couple milliliters of glycol left inside the tire, that doesn't hurt anything. But now we can flip it back over. We can put our vent plug back in and snug that so that it doesn't get lost. Okay. Then you'll need a towel to wipe up the little bit of spillage that you got. There may be some glycol left on the outsides of the wheel and places like that. It's fairly difficult to do an extremely neat job of this without spilling anything. But just wipe up the excess. You can use a little bit of just clean water to clean up anything that's on your bench. Glycol is hydrophilic. It will absorb and bond to water, so just plain water is a good cleanup to get rid of anything that you've spilled. Put the cap back on and snug that down good and firm. And now you can put everything back in its respective space in the shipping crate, in the shipping case, and you're all ready to transport your instrument. Thank you for joining me today. If you'd like to learn more, first best place to reach out is your local Waygate field sales engineer or local channel partner. They will be able to assist you in quotes and demos. If you have technical questions, please send an email to remoteservice@bakerhughes.com and we will get an answer to you as quickly as possible. For software and updates to the instrument and documentation, please check out the InspectionWorks public store. That's www.inspectionworks.com. And under all products, look for the RotoArray comPAct. And you can also visit our Waygate webpage by scanning the QR code shown on the screen here. And that will give you other information and other links to get you help. So again, thank you very much for joining me. Hopefully this was helpful, and we will see you in the next installment.